Most traders drown in charts and still miss the real levels. Get clear daily roadmaps for the S&P 500 futures. Levels, setups, and strategies that matter. Delivered straight to your inbox pre-market every morning. Subscribe now on Substack. Conquer the markets.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? I'm Ryan Bailey, and you've made it to the post-market breakdown. Just want to welcome everybody, as it was an interesting day today, but once again, the bulls never cease to impress. They always step in every single day, it seems. So we had some really interesting levels in the trade plan play today, and so we're going to go over all that here real shortly. First and foremost, however, if you're not following me, please do. This is Ryan Bailey Edge is my handle across all social medias. So we've got YouTube, Substack, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, and now also TradingView. So make sure you follow along, as I am posting new indicators, and we're actually going to go over one of them today. And I should have two new ones, or at least one new one, come out this week. There's already two live, and so make sure you follow along and like. They're free. Should help everybody out, especially intraday traders. I think you guys really enjoy that. So, all right, so let's get into it. So today was a little challenging. We were coiled tight to start the morning. We all had a very small range in the middle of the night, and we were balanced right on top of our significant area. And we had relative low volume that was very low. And, we were expecting higher, which is technically what we got. And, let's pull up the market context. Let's check it out. Kind of build into this a little bit. So here we go. Let's get into this. All right. So this is the very beginning. So like I said, we had a 68-point range. We moved 17 last night, which is like nothing. It's unbelievable. So they left us a possible 40 points in the tank. However, with low relative volume, we were down 44% as of pre-market. I basically took 40% of that, and I said, hey, listen, it could be anywhere between 25 and 40, which is essentially what we got. I believe we actually moved, let's take a look. We moved a whole 44 points today of our total range, and we started off with 17. And so, yeah, right around a little bit more than, 20, 30 points there, 25, 30 points. So worked out perfect. So the relative volume was extremely low. We had to be prepared for anything if a news event sparks off. And the reason that I gave this precursor was the same thing happened yesterday. So we were at the highs yesterday, extremely low relative volume. We had news come out, and then immediately we dumped, 40 plus points in a heartbeat based on a little blurb by Microsoft. And so just with low market participants, the market can just move instantly. And so we have to just be very careful when we're in an environment like that. So we actually had unemployment claims pre-market, and it did give us a little pop, which we'll talk about here soon. So like I said, Harry, the market really could go either way. The 68.72 level is huge. It's an upside wall of resistance. Well, it's been big for some time. We actually played it yesterday. It smacked for like 15 points, but this was our high time frame upper range. And after we actually poked through it today and came back lower, we never got back above it. And we still haven't been back above it really since, well, for a long time, since November, actually, since the beginning of November. So, every time we bump our head, we've been staying underneath it. So this is a big level for us to keep in mind. So we are currently in buy the dip mode, the overhead resistance at 72 with the VIX at extreme lows. And like I said, and this worked out very similar, looking for any bit of volatility for the VIX to pop hard, it would send the indices down sharply, which is exactly, again, what happened this morning. However, this time we actually came off one of our significant levels from the trade plan, and there's a whole ordeal with this. So I'm going to show you, this was awesome. So if you guys are trading the trade plans, this would be a great way for you to look at this and say, okay, I can see how this is all coming together, right? So we're balancing a tight range, relative low volume, trend is up, slow grind. You got to be aware of the fragile nature of this balance, right? Because anytime we're just continuously slow grinding up on a low relative volume, anything can shake this market, anything, right? So we were talking about buy the dip at 68.47, which worked great. And we had a composite value area high that was there. And so this all worked out well, just kind of giving the heads up here going into the day. So one of the things that I always post, and I talked about this when I had Rob on the session the other day, this is our proprietary GEX levels. So Rob has, we tried all kinds of services, Spot Gamma and MenthRQ and a bunch of other ones. And the issue that we found with these options services is they give you so many levels, right? You might get 20 freaking levels. And I'm like, I don't need 20 levels. I need to know the ones that count, right? The ones that actually do something. And so Rob has built this amazing tool where it basically pulls out the important levels of the day. And so this is how I highlight these. The red are put walls, green are call walls. This is our major pivot to be above or below, which played awesome today. And then of course we have our negative gamma or our positive gamma regime, which I always let people know. Now, again, talking about positive gamma, guys, we've been in positive gamma. When we were in negative gamma, we had a lot of volatility. We still have volatility, but as you can see, the ranges are much smaller now that we're in a positive gamma regime. So dealers are long. So they continue to buy as, they are essentially long their position, right? And so that is why we also are in buy the dip mode, other than the fact that our process tells us to, but obviously options dealers have a lot to do with this. So the very first call wall is 68.79. I hope that you guys who are trading the plans are marking these on here. There's only, usually there's only about 5 or 6 levels a day. Today there was 6 levels with a pivot. It's about normal. 3 on each side and the middle pivot, which makes sense. And then of course I got my gamma flip level, which is way down south at 67.80. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about how this came into play. Okay. So let's not forget this options level here. So this was right out of the gate, guys. We have been talking about this 4-hour at 68.79 for some time now. So, this was one of our upper range targets here. You could see that we had the call wall lined up perfectly at 68.79. And, we had this confluent area. I said there's an untested 4-hour and a large call wall here, and the November 9th weekly point of control, right, within 3 points. These are all major spots that we need to be aware of, okay? So the actionable setup apparently was obviously, this is a highly confluent area. And for me in the room, it's the moment we were under 72, because we talked about it was a big deal, right? Now, we've also talked about the 68.83 weekly, which was directly above this just by a point or two. And this was a massive level and has been. This is the same weekly that sent us down so many times. And so for those of you guys who are following along, and obviously there was a little bit more detail in the real plan, but you can see how this area was something that we wanted to be looking for. And so when we got a smack from here, I immediately let everybody in the room know, like, hey, this is a big deal, but it was even more than that. And this actually sent us down quite substantially. And this is one of the spots where we had our first long take place at 68.46, which is the same spot we just talked about in the market context, right? So you can see right here, 68.47. All right. So we're going to get into that. All right. So first, let's go ahead and talk about, because I always pull up SPX as well. This is always in the plan. Okay. So we have been talking about this untested daily at 68, 67, 77 for quite some time. I would tell everybody we had this weekly at 68.45. This is our big head buster, guys. But above this, we have the highest untested daily right now at 68.67. And I don't have a picture of it here, but I'm just going to go ahead and pull it over just because I ran out of time. But let me just show you guys. This chart is going to be a little crazy. It's got my full markings on it. I usually clean this up for you guys. But here we go. This was our 68.67 up here. We basically touched this at the open. We opened below it. It was close enough within 1 point, and we started to come down. Okay, so I'm immediately telling everybody in the room, hey, listen, we've tapped the daily that we've been discussing for some time at 68.67. We tapped our 4 hour. That was an absolute monster up here with the weekly and the call wall. We need to expect to come down, like be super careful, right? At this point, I'm being extremely cautious about buying. Obviously, I'm still very much on the long side because that's what this market is. We have no reason to believe otherwise right now, but that is certainly something that we were looking at, okay? So this was all confluence that if you guys had the trade plans this morning, this was right out in front of you, okay? Now, let's go ahead and talk about the VIX, right? So this kind of comes into play as well. So the VIX looks, this is this morning on the trade plan. VIX looks extremely weak, right? Again this morning. And it's located underneath the daily, which was right here. This is where we were at this morning when I turned this thing on. At 1635, right? So this daily has had multiple tests, and we want to stay below this, right? But if we push above this, this creates a significant headwind for the indices. Well, this morning, as soon as we touched our spot up there at the highs, we started to get a pop up and came back over this 1635 daily. So the whole time that we're long, I'm essentially watching for us to get back below this area, which every time we did, we continued to get a little bit more increase in the upside for the ES. And knowing that we were on a downside trajectory anyway, we are essentially just looking for this to pull back. And as you can see here, we continued to get lower highs as we continued to walk down. So these pops didn't concern me, especially as we were starting to, walk up and, kind of gets a little pops and drops here, because at the end of the day, we were still making lower highs as this continued to pop up and do its thing. Okay. Now, this is interesting for tomorrow, however. Look where we're at. We're underneath this 1573 weekly, or at least very close to it. As you can see right here, bullish for ES. A push below this 1573 weekly provides a continued tailwind. I mean, we are getting really close to popping this upper resistance that could take us potentially to new all-time highs, more than likely before the end of the year. Okay? So that was the short, and it was pretty stinking awesome. Okay, so came down pretty fast, pretty nice, worked out really good. All right, so now let's talk about this. So this was right out of the trade plan as well. It was right in the beginning for the market context. I talked about this area right here. This is the 1 hour confluence at 46.47, right? Got it right here. So this was a huge level, and we had a composite value area high. It was actually, I'll show you where it came from. You could see it in the trade plan, but this was the composite value area high. This was all put together. This was like 5 or 6 days because we've been in balance. We've had overlapping values. So for me, this is just, we might as well put them all together because it's all the same range, right? When you're going back and forth, you're accepting value. It's time to figure out which way they're going to go. You put them together and you figure out where your important spots are at. So we had the composite value area high. So my thought process was, I kind of like this level. I want to see this hold and get back above 68.50, right? And ultimately 52 for continuation. Well, we did exactly that today. Okay. So I took this all the way up. I don't have the screenshots of my trades right now. We're running a little late today, but I took this all the way up. Basically, I even had one of my targets up at, I think it was like 70.50, and it missed me by a point. I was so salty, right? They ended up pulling all the way back for the retest. didn't make any lows. And of course I held my load because my stop was down here. And then we came all the way back up and eventually ended up getting my targets before it was over with. But this was a phenomenal level. It was right out of the plan. It's exactly what we wanted. We had the 79 short, we had the 46 long, and it was an awesome morning. I mean, it really was. It was, the trade plan played out perfectly and everything was superb. Actually, and I will show you this as well. And I didn't take a picture of this, but this is just kind of going with it here. So check this out. This right here is the same level in SPX, 68, 36, 94. This is the exact spot right here. As you can see, we came down from the daily, held this, double tapped, and came up, and eventually we ended up hitting our 4 hour at 68.59 and made new lows. But this was the exact same idea, and the confluence lined up perfect. And I'll just show you so that you understand. As you can see right here, it was circled 68, 39, 94. This was the spot. And we talked about it also in the trade plan. I called it out in the trade plan for SPX as well. So I hope this helps you guys who are following along really understand, how to utilize these trade plans. So that was a crazy morning. So we had the long and the short. That was awesome. And then after that, because I'm like sitting here trying to get higher, right? And of course, I'm always trying to get higher. I'm a bull, right? I'm always bullish. So of course I want to push up more as much as possible. Hang on, let me turn this off here. Give me 1 second here. My night light just came on. It got really dark in here. How do I turn that off? Let's see. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. So here we go. So this was something we called out in the room as well. And this is really something important for people in the room to pay attention to. So, after we had played this area down here at 47 and we had pushed up, you'll notice that this 70, like I told you, this was my target the whole time. I think it was 70 or 69.25, something like that. I don't remember what it was. But the idea is for it to obviously close back above 70 or continue higher. Well, this is the 72 that I've talked about multiple times. It was really important. You could see once they got above it, they stayed below it. And this was our smack from 79. Well, they could not gain, right? And so when I say gain, I was looking for a 1 hour close above 70, and they just couldn't give it to us. And I'm telling everybody, hey, listen, this can't gain after several attempts. 1, 2, 3, 4 times up here, actually 5 times up here, and you can't close. That's a problem, right? Buyers are struggling, which means they will more than likely have to come down and find new lows. And this same thing happened with SPX. As you know, I just showed you on the actual chart. We played this area here at 37, came all the way up, played our 4 hour at 68.59 on the 4 hour, and came down and made new lows. Okay. So they actually dumped pretty hard. I had a level that I really, really wanted to buy. I'm going to show you right now. No, that's not it. Let's see. Let's see. So I anticipated this price to come all the way down to 68.32.75. This was exactly what was in the trade plan. So when they couldn't gain, they peeled off. This is the move down. And they just missed it. They actually played it perfect on NQ. They missed it on ES. I was super bummed because I didn't take the trade. And I really could have used it, to be honest. But what they did was, as you see the 68.46, after they played this twice and popped up and came down, they actually missed our leg. And when they pushed back up, they reclaimed this and it just went, right? They even retested it. And after looking a little bit further, this was actually the initial balance low as well. So when they swept the IB low and came back up, this was a great grab for a long. And so unfortunately, we missed the leg at the lows, which is still here and still very much available and could be ready for a test and a buy if we go back up. But at the end of the day, the bulls did their thing. I'm not sure we make it back down there. And as you can see, once again, we were in balance. And so, me being a big, TPO guy, value guy, I like to understand where we're at in value. If we're outside value, let's pull it back into value. If there's market, inefficiencies, let's go fix them, right? Well, this is our massive composite point of control. This was yesterday, which was fairly in balance, but they had a poor high. As you can see, they cleaned it up this morning, opened here, and then pulled back. And this is pretty much cleaned up. This is a very nice rounded balance profile. Now we've got some inefficiencies on the highs and lows, but ultimately on the week, Look at this balance, just absolutely incredible as we've sat in this area here. And they're just building volume, guys. They are accepting value for a push somewhere. Now, more than likely, we're going to push higher. We don't know that, but I mean, we are trending higher and they continue to push. And so we have every reason to believe that that is the direction that we will go, at least for now. Okay, so this was this is just funny to me because after all the action today, we still had a beautiful balanced day. And, we're still looking really pretty on the weekly. But look at this. I want to show you guys this. And I just noticed, I just got to thinking about it. This shows you how ridiculously coiled tight we are. So last week, hang on one second. I can't really see it on there. Okay. So last week, you can't see it. This says we had a range of 217 points in last week's profile and last week's weekly. Okay. This week so far, we've only moved 64 points. 64. This is like 3 or 4 times of what this week has been so far. So if that doesn't tell you right now that we are coiled tight for a move, like you need to rethink what's really happening here because this is building big time. 64 points after last week, we moved 350. I mean, just absolutely incredible, right? And then the actual range of last week, it appears to be 217 in a cash session. And so, this is a big tell. So I'll just leave it at that and kind of go from there. So now where are we going to do tomorrow? Well, we're still in buy the dip mode, but I tell you that push down today really wiped a lot of stuff. And this is still a very fragile area for us to be in. We do have a lot of support lower. And we do have some inefficiencies down here on the weekly that still need to be cleaned up. And so if they wanted to break lower, it certainly wouldn't surprise me. I'm still buying. We still have every reason to believe that we're going to go up. But as of right now, they're continuing to push higher. I am lacking for areas of support to buy right now if we continue to push higher. I'm sorry, if they want to hold this area, I'm going to have to wait for the morning and see what they make in the overnight session. Because other than this 55.50, I got nothing to buy unless we come down in here to 32. But right now, it certainly looks like we're going to continue our push higher. But again, we have this massive level at 72 that continues to stand in our way. And then, of course, we have our monster weekly up here at 83. Okay, but it is tested, right? So all this stuff is tested. So they are free to move higher. There's no question about it. It's just these areas are so big that it has become a problem, right? So more than likely, they are going to sit in here and wait for some sort of news. I didn't even look and see when FOMC was. I think it's next week, I think. So, yeah, it would definitely be next week. It's usually on a Wednesday. So with that being said, we'll see how we finish tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. So, it should be interesting and we'll go from there. So that's it for the ES. That's what I got for you. So now let's talk about something else. I wanted to explain to you guys exactly what you can get with this indicator. And I have had a lot of people in the room have given this huge thumbs up. And so I'm going to show you how this works here. It's pretty slick. Okay. So this is something that, and just to let you know here, it's Ryan Bailey Edge, you guys. Hang on. Did I click the right thing? Maybe not. I'll show you guys where it's at. Here you go, Ryan Bailey Edge. I just opened this account. I'm starting to upload a bunch of scripts into it. Come grab this right now. People in the room are grabbing this. I'll show you. We're working on some stuff right now. So the one that we're going to talk about right now is called the Edge Session Levels. I also have this ATR matrix, and we'll talk about this another time. This is the important one that I wanted to talk about right now, and there's a reason behind it. Okay, so this one right here is just a simple overlay on your chart. It works on any asset, right? Stocks, futures, crypto, whatever. I wouldn't really recommend using it with crypto, but stocks and Forex and futures, whatever. And the reason I say that is because this marks yesterday's high and lows, right? It marks the overnight highs and lows. It also marks your cash open and the cash close. I forgot to circle it right here. See the dotted line. This right here is actually a 30-second opening range. So you can adjust this. You can adjust the start times. You can adjust everything, anything you want. You can adjust everything. You can make this a 1-minute opening range, a 5-minute opening range, whatever. We have it set to 30 seconds right now. So this works phenomenal because that's what I have mindset for. The 30-second opening range often acts as support or resistance when you approach it from the top or bottom on a retest. And it works great for a breakout. So something to keep in mind here. And then obviously you have the other levels as well. And one of the reasons that I wanted to show you this and why I thought it was such a big deal to give this to people, right? You see this right here? This was the initial balance low. So the initial balance is the first hour of trading. Okay, so I'll just pull this over so you see this white bar right here on the profile on the side. That is the initial balance. That's what that symbolizes. Okay, the same thing applies for yesterday, right? So you can see this right here is the first hour of trading. Okay, now generally, if we're in trend, okay, the initial balance acts as a great breakout place. So you see they push up above the initial balance and they continue to push higher. And that's generally where initial balances are nice. Also, I talked to you guys yesterday about the initial balance statistics. If you didn't catch that, definitely watched yesterday's market breakdown. I gave some really good statistics in there about how often these are broken, right? And so we know that if one side hasn't been broken, and it wasn't as of late in the afternoon. I mean, they didn't break the initial balance until almost 2 o'clock today. So this was here, right? This is where we actually got long. You can't see the initial balance high because it's the exact same location as the overnight high. So with that being said, let's kind of get back into this here. I'm sorry, it's not true. It's right here. My apologies. It's right here, that blue dotted line where I have this. So anyways, regardless. So you can see how we swept lower, right? Swept the IB low. And as soon as they reclaimed the IB low, this was a buy. This was a trigger. So this is just one beautiful example that I could show you guys of how you can use this study for your own trading process. If you're trading futures, if you're trading stock, bonds, Forex, whatever, this all comes into play. You can use all these levels. This is like a day trader's paradise. So I worked really hard on this indicator. It's multi-time frame. You can put it on pretty much any time frame you want. My recommendation, however, is to keep it on the 15-minute or lower, especially just because, this runs off, actually it's the 30-minute or lower. I like the 15-minute or lower just based on the way that TradingView, compiles the time frames. And so that's it. I hope that you guys, take advantage of this. Go check it out. I'll put the link in this post and, you can go out and take a look. So there you go. So we've talked about the S&P today, and I'm going to give you guys an indicator and put it out there. I will also make a post and put the links in for the other indicators as well. And we should have a new one that comes out tomorrow on Friday. So that'll be 3 total that you guys can get. So please make sure that you check those out, just kind of handing those out. And if they help you, then awesome. Share them with your friends, point people to them, what have you. Tomorrow is going to be another big day. It's Friday. More than likely to, relative low volume, the whole 9. I am not going to be here for the post-market breakdown. Today is the last day of the week, but I will see you guys early for the trade plan at 8:30. And everybody in the room, I will see you guys before the market opens. So everyone have a fantastic weekend. I will see you guys on Sunday with the weekend review, and be good. Cheers.